Hi, everyone. So I'm back here, your host, Asim Amin, the founder of Healing Clouds. Today, we're here with Daniela Tudor. She is the co-founder and CEO of WeConnect Health Management. WeConnect is a tech company that is decreasing costs of addiction recovery across the United States by reducing relapse from different types of addictions. So without further ado, first of all, thank you so much for being with us today, Daniela. It's a pleasure having you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on.
So Daniela, WeConnect, what led you to, founding the company, co-founding the company, and how did your startup journey actually start in this space?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a person in long-term recovery from substance use disorder. Professionally, my background was in technology in different types of industries, building tech teams, and then jumped into my entrepreneurial journey where I had a startup that was in the music technology space. And my co-founder for that, who's my best friend today, she approached me in a very unconditional, loving way and helped me realize that I had a problem with drugs and alcohol. And at the time, coming from Romania originally and being in an Eastern European family, we didn't talk a lot about behavioral health, mental health, substance use disorder. So when I realized that I was struggling with something and sort of came out of the denial phase, I didn't know what resources were available to me. And I tried to get into recovery from substance use disorder on my own for about 18 months. And it was a complete struggle. Every 1 or 2 days I could put together sober, I would eventually go back out and use. And so finally I landed in a 4-week inpatient program. And that's where both I found my recovery and also came up with the idea for WeConnect. I realized a couple different things that just really surprised me. I realized just how many people were going through the same issues that I was going through. Here in the United States, there's 23 million people in long-term recovery and 20.8 million, and that number is increasing now, that are seeking recovery from substance use disorder. But the statistic that I found is that 80% of people were having reoccurrence events or relapse events within the first year of attempting recovery, if not the first 60 days. And a lot of those end up in overdose or death. And to me, that was really shocking. So I knew that I had to do something about it.
So then would you say the relapse is probably a bigger enemy or a bigger killer than the actual addiction? Because people do try to find that strength to perhaps go through the recovery route, but the bigger problem is the relapse.
I mean, that's an interesting question. I haven't looked at the specific data around that, but I would say that yes, when somebody has a reoccurrence event, it can be really risky because the physiology of the brain and the capacity for using substances, if someone's had some stretch of recovery between it, they might potentially have even more risky behaviors around that use, and that can end up in overdoses. But I think in general, just substance use disorder, or if you have a reoccurrence event after some stretch of recovery, can be very dangerous and can result in that overdose event, and which can lead to someone ending their life. So it was pretty tragic statistic to learn. And so that and a number of other factors just led me to know that my life's mission has become to create services and products and experiences that connect us as humans and help people get on their path to thrive in life.
So what would you say would be, if you'd like to shed some light on why the post-treatment experience is also very critical?
Yeah, so going back to just my own personal experience, I was in a 4-week inpatient program. I was surrounded for the first time by people that really understood what I was going through. So I felt very connected. That human connection was incredible. The other thing that I was taught in that 4-week program is that I needed to stay accountable to a number of activities daily and weekly for the rest of my life in order to stay in recovery. Substance use disorder is a chronic life condition, just like diabetes. And you need your daily or weekly treatment to that. And for diabetes, it's insulin. In the case of being in recovery, it's things like therapy sessions, going to community meetings, engaging and connecting with other humans, meditation, yoga, whatever that looks like for you. Everybody's slightly different. And so on my discharge date, I was handed a piece of paper, which was my treatment plan. And it listed all of these things that I'm supposed to do on a daily and weekly basis. And I would just handed that piece of paper and then sent back on my way to my old environment. Wow. And that was sort of the experience that I had. And I realized again, like, we needed something to bridge the gap between connection and accountability long term using technology and human connection. Otherwise, people don't have that consistent support for the rest of their life. And that's why the relapse or the reoccurrence rate is so high, because essentially you're sent back to your old environment with a piece of paper that you might lose, or you're not looking at it all the time. And there's also no motivation, no incentive, no reward to stay on track, which is sort of the last piece that we've integrated into our platform, is getting rewarded for staying on track and accountable and connected.
To be honest, that's really interesting. I mean, you spoke about reward, and there are a lot of apps out there which reward you to, stay healthy and keep moving, and there are apps which reward you for every step that you take. So, I mean, gamification obviously works. So that's really interesting how you've included that in your app. But then, why hasn't this been incorporated in the past? I mean, because obviously there has been a lot of statistics, and you've spoken about a lot of data. Why do you think there has been a gap in this market?
Yeah, so I think it's two things. I think there's a lot of stigma surrounding our particular field. For one, folks think that people that maybe are experiencing homelessness or are experiencing socioeconomic challenges would never use an application, which has proven to not be true. The second is, with contingency management, is the research that talks about behavior change by incentivizing folks in behavioral health. The way it had been administered before we came along was by giving people a coupon or reward through direct mail or when they went to the clinic a week later. And the research shows that giving someone an immediate incentive is a key component of keeping that person engaged, that patient engaged in their care plan. And so what we've done is digitize that into the app, where you're instantly earning an Amazon gift card to get food, household items, medical supplies. The third part is regulatory. So here in the United States for Medicaid, there's a regulation around a gift cap. You can't give someone over $75 of value of a gift. But right, because the person in our application is earning the incentive by engaging in their care plan, it's not a gift because they're earning it. And so we've been able to digitize it. We've been able to create the app on a basis where they're earning the gift. So we've been able to overcome those obstacles with our platform.
And I think it's very clever how you've found a way around it as well, to give as much more reward to the users when they engage with your app than you would normally be able to, because they're obviously engaging, so they're actually earning rather than you just giving something for free.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And, the research that we looked at 30 different research-based studies, and it showed that giving someone the potential to earn between $800 to $1,000 is what creates this high engagement at a minimum. And so it was really critical for us to make sure that we were able to provide that to the participants through the use of our platform.
Wow. So, I'm sure you must have a lot of challenges since your own personal experience until where you've come today. But do you think, it adds value when you have that challenge and you're trying to create a business around that challenge?
Yeah, absolutely. Because having that experience is so important to be able to understand what the customer, the participant needs. And we do talk about
because you are the customer as well, essentially.
To a degree. So now, having been in some time and being so ingrained in the work, we do focus groups with folks that are early in recovery. We really focus in those first 2 years of recovery, and then going on from that. But yes, having gone through the specific experience, I'm able to overcome some of those barriers when we're making the business case, because we really understand what the customer needs, whereas somebody doesn't. And so we have a great mix of people that we connect, folks that have lived recovery experience, of folks that are not in recovery but are experts in their field when it comes to technology or the research behind it. And so combining those, I think it takes a village. You have to combine people that are experts in their field, and then also have some percentage of people that have that lived experience. So then you have certain situations where someone without the experience is better because they're not going to be biased when they're trying to build something or give advice on a particular feature. And then in some cases, it is better when somebody has the experience to give that feedback. So it's kind of like when you talk about leadership and building companies, it's important to have a diverse team, whether that's ethnic background or gender. That's what makes the teams most successful, is when you have that diversity. And I think it's the same in our field as well.
Talking about leadership, there are a lot of young people and a lot of people coming out of universities. A lot of startups are now being built, within the universities, and then they springboard out of universities. So, what advice would you like to give young leaders of our generation?
I think it's the same that I would for people that are struggling with mental health or substance use disorder, which is ask for help. Mm-hmm. So I think that as long as you have, and I don't mean mentorships in the long-term sense, but as long as you connect and network with people that are experts in different facets of the business you're trying to build, and you build a relationship where you can shoot them a text or ask them a question about what mistakes have they made in the past and like what to avoid, or what they think is going to make a certain thing successful. I think that that's the best way to get where you want to get to quicker. So I think, again, when you talk about vulnerability and that being a huge strength, I think it's the same in business. Asking for help is what's going to get you to be successful, and also being honest and transparent about your shortcomings and weaknesses. And so what I mean about that, I think one of the most critical relationships people have is their co-founder relationship. Mm-hmm. So be really self-aware about what gaps you have, and you want to find a co-founder that's going to complement those gaps so that you can make a whole team that's going to basically have expertise or experience in all areas of the business.
And I think you hit the nail properly there when you said it's not only limited to mental health, but in general, asking for help is important. And you'd be surprised when you ask for help, how many people actually come back to you offering that help. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
It's so true.
So I think it's just, I honestly feel that it starts from you. Start by seeking, and then, you do find a lot of people, a lot of support system that just comes out and helps you. But also, it's interesting that you have a tech background, obviously, and women in tech. The whole space is and the whole dialogue is growing. However, it is still a male-dominated industry. So, what would you perhaps want to say to all the women who are entering this space, who are already in this space?
Yeah, I think it's a balance between staying strong to your belief system and believing in your intuition. There's a great number of allies that are men out there that are incredible, that do want to support women, and really stick to your guns and what your intuition is telling you, and find allies both internally on your team, but also even when going out with investments. So with my past business, I made one mistake where I took funding from the first person that would give it to us. They had zero experience in the particular niche product I was trying to build. And so I think it goes the same. And I took that lesson to heart when I started WeConnect. And even when we were like, oh my gosh, are we going to make it? Are we going to fill this round? We're stuck to our guns of only bringing in people that we knew were right for the business and would be supportive of a female-led company, would be supportive of knowing and understanding the nuances that businesses in behavioral health need a lot of time, because we're building a niche product, and it's an emerging market. And so I think the advice I would give to women is stick to your intuition, partner with people that believe in you, because they do exist and they are out there, but also be bold. So there's a TED Talk out there that talks about, they did a study and they used the same pitch deck, and they had men pitch it versus women pitching it. And there's this inherent bias, even when people are trying to be supportive of you as a woman entrepreneur, where the questions that they tend to ask is all about the risks when it's a woman pitching versus when a man is how successful can this be? And they talk about the upside. So I encourage women to be rationally bold, talk about the upside, turn the questions around, and also do your work and study before what the risks are that they may try to bring up, but also just be confident and be bold in what you're pitching and go forward with that.
Wow, the TED Talk you spoke about is pretty interesting. I'm for sure going to look it up. But also be bold. And I also think, don't be afraid to fail, because, I mean, you've obviously learned from your past experience. A lot of people, I think, unfortunately don't take that first step, or are perhaps maybe even scared to fail. And in my personal experience, I think failure has taught me a lot of things, and I am who I am today because of all the failures that I've made. So, failing is also that important, and of course, be bold.
I completely agree with that. I think, don't be discouraged, and also set your expectations about volume. Like, for example, being a woman fundraising, it's like, expect you'll pitch it 100 times, and you may not have to, but just setting that expectation that you're going to have to get through a lot of no's, and that's a natural part of the process, and failing, like you said, is a natural part of the process to get to success, and not expecting that the journey is going to be perfect, or that a no means that it's not going to happen is really critical in that. So I completely agree with that.
I'm glad you spoke about, expect to pitch 100 times and expect, perhaps to even maybe fail 100 times and then try 101 time, because, there's a huge misconception, in the UK and other parts of the world that, when we're raising funds in the UK, because our business is based in the UK and we've raised funds in the UK already, and we're going for a second and a third round. The biggest misconception is, it's very easy. It's a walk in the park to raise funds in the US. However, raising funds is a full-time job, and it is hard no matter where you are. So, be prepared, and, get ready for all those failures. Perhaps you will not have to fail those many times, but be prepared.
Yes, that's so true.
So, talking about advisors, what advice would you give if you could, to your 18-year-old, if you had the opportunity to go back in time?
That's so interesting, because, you brought up failure and things like that. And a lot of the struggles or shortcomings that I had, especially through my addiction journey, I wouldn't be here today, and I wouldn't be able to build this business had I not gone through those experiences. But I think one of the pieces of advice I would give to my 18-year-old self is just to be kinder to myself, in general, and just to know that no matter how, dire or horrible things may look, is that, everything is temporary, and like to really believe that. Because even when I got out of that treatment center, and I had this idea for WeConnect, and I couldn't sleep at night. I kept going, like I knew that this was my purpose. But there was also a small part of me that thought, oh my gosh, recovery is going to be the only thing in my life. I'm going to end up being a store clerk. I'm not going to be able to pursue dreams, and that's okay, because at least I have my recovery and I can probably still find joy. And that hasn't been the case. But even if that had been the case, to know that everything is temporary, and that there's always an opportunity for change, opportunity to do something different. So I think just relieving that pressure from my 18-year-old self of having this very rigid image of like what I should be doing caused so much other undue stress. And I think this is still something that I manage in my current recovery with anxiety and things like that. And so that's probably what I would tell my 18-year-old self.
I couldn't agree with you more, especially when you speak about trusting the process, because it is all about trusting the process. And it's funny you say that, because if I could go back in time, I would tell my 18-year-old the exact same thing, especially now, because I speak to a lot of young university students as well. And I honestly think, this is just my opinion, I honestly believe that the anxiety levels and the stress levels that students have today is much more than when I was back in university or back in school, because the competition has increased immensely, and everything is, it has to be perfect. It has to be now. And people are so hard on themselves. But, just trusting the process and knowing that everything will be okay, because everything eventually is okay, Yeah. So I think that is extremely, extremely important.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Well, I can't thank you enough for being with us today. Before I let you go, could you just perhaps tell everybody how they can find your your business, how they can find you if they wanted to reach out.
Absolutely. So you can check us out on our website at weconnectrecovery.com, and you can find me on LinkedIn at Daniela Luzzi Tudor. So thank you so much for having me on. And again, kudos for doing such important work, and looking forward to staying in touch. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Daniela. Absolutely. We will stay in touch, and hopefully we can do this a little bit more and hopefully help as many people as we can together. So thank you so much. And, I commend you, I congratulate you for your journey, and then now trying to help as many people as you can. So thank you so much for doing what you're doing as well. It was a pleasure talking to you today.
You too.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye-bye.